morning to all of you. I'm very happy to meet some of my classmates and colleagues in the Madras in Mysore University, and also some of my young friends. Maybe I've met them and I don't remember, and it's nice to renew our contacts again. And at the outset, I would like to pay my tributes to Professor Nadig, whose centenary is being celebrated, along with the Golden Jubilee of the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, Mysore University. I also wish to pay my tributes to my other professors in the university department who have taught me both at Maharajas College as well as in the Department of Journalism Communication, Mysore University. I'm happy to meet at least one classmate of mine, Padmanabh, who is very much here in Mysore and seems to be very active in the meetings that are being held every Friday. I chose this topic, mass media, education and media laws. I mean, it has more to do with media education and laws and ethics, mainly for two reasons. One is that now there is a proliferation of communication courses, at various levels, at the certificate courses, diploma courses, degree courses, postgraduate courses, and all types of courses that's being offered. But I don't think to what extent importance is given to media laws and ethics. It needs some kind of a consideration. We need to think over it. We need to review, to how much is the importance that is given to media laws and ethics. And second reason why I chose this topic is because now there is so much of problems that are being faced, ethical problems that are being faced, and legal problems that are confronting the media in India. So mainly for these, I think it is important for us to have a look at it and try to examine, what is happening and what could be done, and where are we with regard to the media laws and ethics. We had, when we were students at the undergraduate level, Professor Kadri taught us whatever that needs to be with regard to media laws and ethics. And at the postgraduate level, we had, I think, if I remember correctly, it was Professor from Sharda Vilas Law College. He was the principal of Sharda Vilas Law College, who taught us media laws and ethics. So since he was a principal, he was a man with a legal background. He gave us a vast input in terms of the media laws and ethics. It's important for us to know that ethics is something which is important for every human being. As human beings, what distinguishes us from other living beings is the ethics that needs to be followed. We are humans, and we have to look at others and consider others and treat others also as human beings. It should be in our nature. It is in our nature, and it is something that we need to cultivate. Ethics is something that needs to be cultivated, particularly to be humanistic in one's approach to things in life, and particularly to people in this thing. Ethics is more to do with what can be called as being impartial, being objective, not biased, you know, and respect others, and particularly respect the privacy of other people. And also, we need to uh, respect, or we need to consider the public interest, and particularly as people, as in journalism, and particularly as communicators, I think it's very important for us to keep in mind that we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to respect what can be called as the public interest, which is very, very important. So media laws are, it's the a state which makes the laws. The state is empowered. Presently, we know that Article 13 of the Constitution empowers the Parliament to make laws. And if we try to have a look at the media laws in India, it has had a history. It has had its beginning under the British rule, uh, where the laws were made mostly to control the media, and particularly not only control the media, if possible, they tried the level best to put an end to the functioning of Indian media in during the British regime. And we have had laws like the Gagging Act of 1878, which tried to put away, all the newspapers that were there in existence at that time. They basically, the way they did was to expect, the newspapers, newspapers during the particularly in the last century, means the 18th century and 19th century and 20th century, media was deeply involved in the freedom struggle. That is the press. Media those days was press. The press was synonymous with the mass media, and mass media was deeply involved in the freedom struggle. And it was this involvement of the media which the British tried to curb, and British tried to punish the particularly the Indian newspapers, because most of the English newspapers were managed by the Britishers themselves, and we did not have. And I think only the two major newspapers which came up in 1878. One was the Hindu, was started in 1878 in Madras, and then the Amrit Bazar Patrika. It changed. It was a Bengali newspaper. Just as the Gagging Act was introduced, the Amrit Bazar Patrika, overnight it changed to English, shifted from Bengali to English, had to escape the Gagging Act. So that is how the British, tried to control. And another great law, which is still in existence, which is still controlling people, and particularly with regard to the freedom of speech and expression, is the Official Secrets Act of 1923. In the name of the security of the state, in the interest of in the name of the interest of the official secrets, people are being penalized. They are not given the freedom to express freely. So that is another law which was passed in 1923. So the media laws, are to regulate the media, is to make the media function smoothly. And we know that every freedom corresponds with the responsibility. So the freedom that media experience is the freedom of the people. or we can say that is the collective right. It is the collective right of freedom of speech and expression, which is guaranteed in Article 19 1A of the Constitution. That is as the people's right, the collective right that is exercised by the media. And as I said, there is a responsibility, and in the responsibility is in terms of the Article 19(1)(a) should always be read with Article 19(2). That is the reasonable restrictions which are there. Reasonable restrictions with regard to the sovereignty of the country, integrity of the country, friendly relations with foreign states, and then public order, morality, decency, contempt of court, and defamation. These are the 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 principles which are in there in the Article 19(2) of the Constitution. So the media are expected to follow, this the responsibility in terms of Article 19(2) of the Constitution. Of course, it is binding on every citizen. And as I said, as a citizen, as citizens of this country, the media people are also expected to follow the same. But sometimes, uh, they try to what you call as the override the freedom that is given to the media, to the people in the media. So this is where the state has to come with laws, and we have very many laws, in our country. Like, for example, a newspaper needs to be registered once the Press and Registration of Books Act of 1867, and then we have as I said, the Official Secrets Act is already there, and we also have the there are certain laws, in the Civil Procedure Code, that is the IPC and CRPC, Criminal Procedure Code of the country, and with regard to defamation, with regard to obscenity, decency, morality, and various other aspects. There is if we go back, during immediately after the independence, the press was the most important media. Even though we had the radio, since the radio was under the control of the government, what matters to us is the mass media was the newspapers. And of course, we had the films. Films have been there in India for such a long time, but the films are more for entertainment than for education, or more for than for information and education. So that's how it was. The press has become a very important media in India, and we had very great people, functioning in the press, who were committed, and most of them continued, after the independence, since they were committed to the cause of independence, since they were committed to the cause of building up India, since they were committed to creating a new India and strengthening the mass media and making it a social institution, as the fourth estate in the country, along with the other three estates of the state. They tried their level best to contribute their best towards the building of the newspapers and the press. And so now there is what we call as a proliferation of media in our country. Any number of newspapers. We have, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say we have nearly a lack of publications in the country. and we have the television in a very big way. Television journalism has become a very big source of news and information. And the people, the media people in the field of journalism seem to be very powerful and very influential, you know. So this is the present situation as with regard to the media. And since there is also the competition, you know, the competition uh, within the media, each of the media, like for example, the press, you know, there is competition, and there is competition in the television medium. You know, there is competition among the various channels, and of course, one has to rise above. And the most important uh, aspect or the principle that needs to be followed by every media person is to see that, you know, there is a social responsibility, there is a social commitment to the society, commitment to the people, you know, of the country. And the public service is the objective of the should be the objective of the media. You know, even though we say public service to be the objective of the media, it is, as I said, since it is we live in a competitive world, you know, it also means the financial strength, the financial power of the media. How strong are they financially? You know, that also matters. But at the same time, you know, the financial trying to strengthen the media financially should not take away the legal aspects, should not override or should not undermine the ethical aspects, or it should not undermine the service aspect of the media. You know, the media is basically there to serve the people. The media has an obligation, you know, and uh, it has the power, it has the strength, and it should have the determination. And who are the people, you know? And of course, when it comes to the question of people functioning in the media, they have to they have a lot of pressure on them, you know, the pressure that is from the general public, the pressure that is there from the government, from the media, what you call as the sources, the news sources that are there, and the pressure that is there from the owners of the media to which they belong or to in which they function. This pressure is always there. So it is very challenging for every person, you know, every communicator, and particularly to the journalists. It is very, very challenging, you know, to stick to or to follow the ethics. And this is where we need to, you know, insist upon in our media education that our children, that our students should give importance to ethics, should give importance to what be aware of the system in which they function in terms of their rights, their obligations, and their duties and responsibilities. So all these things are very, very important. And when we try to look at the media scenario today, you know, see one thing that has been haunting the media right from the beginning, that is the not only during the British time, even after independence, it is the freedom of expression, the right to express. If we see the very first amendment to to the Constitution was with regard to the freedom of expression. When we look, see the case, that is Ramesh Thakwar versus State of Madras, the newspaper which was published by Ramesh Thapar, Crossroads, was banned in Madras state in 1950 under a particular section of the Madras Maintenance Act. Basically, with regard to the public order, that was the thing that was in question. So the Ramesh topper had to go to the courts and seek, solution from the courts to re-establish, or what we call as to exercise his right to freedom of speech and expression. And when we say freedom of speech and expression, it's not only to speak, but also to publish, to publish, to broadcast. And not only to publish and to broadcast, but also to circulate. Why do we publish? Because we want our publications to reach as many people as possible, as widely as possible, make it known as widely as possible. It is something which is very, very important for us, and so these are the rights. So, and over the years, we have come across a number of cases, which have, there has been a constant fight with regard to the people in power and the media with regard to the right to freedom of speech and expression. There is a what you call as a kind of a love and hate relationship between the media and the people in power. The people in power love the media when they get, when they want publicity. They want as much publicity as possible, and they seek the media, they favor the media, they try to, what you call as win over the media and do all that. And but when it comes to the question of criticism, when media becomes critical, which is the duty and responsibility of the media to be critical, in the right sense of the term, positively, in the interest of the larger interest of the public, the people, so they try to hate the media. They try to, and also when they do not want to be, what you call as to be point out, be told that what they are doing is not right, or when something goes wrong with them, they try to shy away from the media. So this is quite natural. But as media people are used to this kind of an experience, and one has to be very strong, not get carried away by when they are favored by the people in power, when they are being praised, and not, what you call as a sulk when they are being admonished by the people who are in power. They have to maintain a balance. They have to be impartial. They have to be objective. See, many times people question what is objectivity. Objectivity is to be fair, to be fair to all, to be fair in imparting the information, in imparting the news, that they impart, which is very, very important. And so when we see, just as times have passed, we are, as I said, in a globalized world where there is so much exposure, for the people. The media exposure is there, but at the same time, media opportunities are also there for the media people. And there is also this tendency, to what can be called as, to not being very, very responsible, or uh, but that cannot be excused at all. I remember my students used to ask me, when we speak of ethics and we speak of laws and rules and regulations and things like that, they always say, what is the use? What is the use of following ethics? You know, if you follow ethics, you are nowhere. You will be the last person, and uh, nobody respects you. What is important is to, you know, by I would say, by hook or crook, one has to come up in life. What is important is to come up in life, but come up in life at what cost? Through what means? You know, that is something which is very, very important. And so, if maybe you come up in life, and we have seen many instances in our own society and also in the recent past, people come up in life, people become very big, you know, maybe in the economic field, maybe in the education field, maybe in the media field, maybe in the industry, or maybe in the political field. But people who are not ethical, people who do not follow the right path, you know, can always be exposed, can always lose. And the most important thing is, it's not we do things or we need to be ethical to please others, you know, to show that we are ethical people. But what is important is to be true to one's conscience. That's something very, very important. So, being true to one's conscience is something that one needs to cultivate. It can get you, anywhere. You may not be a very popular person. You may not be a very successful person. You may not be a very influential person, but being ethical gives you the satisfaction of being, what you should be, what you need to be. And you can always stand up. You don't have to fear anyone. You don't have to fear anyone. You don't have to fear for anything. If you are ethical, you don't have to fear for anything. You can stand up, you can talk, you can defend yourself, and people, as I said, it will be your asset, and so that is where, as for every human being, to be ethical is something very, very important, and more so as a media person, because you have this responsibility, the social responsibility of being responsible to others, being responsible to others, and responsive to others. Uh, you may be responsible to the owner of the newspaper or owner of the television medium, to the extent that you perform your duty. If you're doing your duty, if you're performing your duty, if you're, obliged to the people, to the society in which you are serving, that's more important. And maybe sometimes I think you'll have to pay a price, and it's okay. And maybe there are today, we see uh, people switching from one uh, organization to another organization, in the newspaper field, in the television field. Uh, Many times they do it because of, now money is also become a very, very important aspect, or what we call as the remuneration. And I remember some of the students, even before they join a course, even before they join a course, they want to know how much will they be able to get? What will be the remuneration that they will be getting? You know, that is, it is important today. It's important today. But at the same time, that's not the be all and end all of it. Once, as a journalist, as a media person, as a communicator, it is one of the aspects. Money is one of the aspects. Much more than working for money, you work to serve the people. You work to serve the society. That obligation, and so you should know that you enter the media field, the media people enter the media field knowing fully well that they have this obligation, that they have this responsibility. So they should be prepared, to face the consequences if they have to, or it may be many times, it may be a risk, sometimes to face the risk. But once you pass through some of these tests, once you are able to establish yourself and make people understand that you are a person who stands up to certain principles. You have certain principles in life, you have certain principles in your profession, and you would always prefer to stick to those principles, to follow those principles, and people will know, and people will understand, and people will not trouble you a lot. And anytime we have such problems, I think once you are established yourself, you are stand up to your principles, I think it's not difficult to face a risk in life, and tell people that for you, an obligation is more obligation to the society, the obligation to your profession is much more important, or being obliged to people in power, or your person who has employed you, or your owner. And but in spite of all this, there is always the temptation, to people in the media also today. They become, particularly in the television media, you know they think they are, or they are made to be celebrities. They made to be celebrities. They think they are celebrities, and they are the most important people. And the governments cannot go on, society cannot go on without them. But I think if this is the understanding that the people have, they are fooling themselves. They're not fooling the people, but they are fooling themselves. Uh, Recent experiences, we have had with regard to the problems faced by the media. Uh, we have had this where, people try to become very important people. They thought that they are the ones who matter. We have this example of Sushant Singh case, you know, and uh, okay, it's one particular channel, you know, the Republic channel, the television channel, which tried to uh, what you call as exaggerate, you know, overplay, and it as the issue in the society. Maybe Sushant Singh was a very popular person, a very loved person, you know, as an actor. But it doesn't mean, that you can fool the people. That's what happened. All other issues, the issue was exaggerated to such an extent that major issues were undermined. It is basically to overlook the major issues facing the society, facing the people, you know, facing the government. And it so happened that many of the media organizations, television channels, and many of the newspapers also followed the bandwagon of the Republic TV. It's very unfortunate. It's very, very unfortunate. And ultimately, what we see is, and Republic TV called itself or claimed that it was the number one channel. And we know the scandal, how the TRP ratings were manipulated, and the corruption that went on in the media, and particularly how the BARC, which was supposed to rate the media, became part of the scandal. It's very unfortunate. See what level that we have. We have everything. We have the latest of technology. We could offer the best in terms of the content to the people, and we have the best of newspapers. We have the best of television channels, and every facility is available. But what are we doing? We are using it for our own selfish interest. Because I want to be the most important person. I want to be the number one media person. I want my channel to be the number one media channel. But if you establish yourself as the number one media person and your channel as the number one media channel, by hook or crook, you can't fool people. You should remember that you can fool people, some people for some time, but you cannot fool all the people all the time. And it's very, very, very unfortunate, And another important point that I would like to bring, as we call as the trend that we see in the media today, and particularly in the broadcast media, is that, shouting, the use of one's language and use of one's voice. You want to shout out others. You want to shout out, the people on the channel. No, you can't do that. It is sensational. You are sensationalizing. You are using your voice. You are using your language. It is sensationalism. And you are not really conveying a message. You are trying to make people deaf. You're trying to make people deaf. And sometimes when we see these discussions happening on the television channels, when people start shouting at each other, and what do the audience get? What do the audience get? What is the use of such discussions? And what purpose does it serve? Maybe it serves your selfish interest of shouting down other people. But that is not the way to defend yourself. That is not the way to prove yourself. You can be amicable. You can be moderate in your approach, in the use of your voice, in the use of your language, and express very effectively what you want to express to the people. What you want to say about any issue, any problem, anything that you want to say. It's a very unfortunate trend, which I feel is very unethical, unnecessarily exaggerating, and ultimately you don't get anything. For example, sometimes, I see this very much in the Kannada channels, they shout. For what? Why do they shout? And they use their voice like nobody's business, and I don't think it serves any purpose at all. And you are maybe they're thinking that people will be get carried away by their way of presentation. Maybe you have a command over your language, in the sense your voice. You can speak continuously, what you call as without any break, but use it for the best, to inform the people, to educate the people, to communicate with people. So this is something which is very, very important. And on the other hand, trying to follow this shortcut methods for popularity, shortcut methods for, to boosting up one's importance, I don't think it will serve any purpose. And as I said, as students of journalism and communication, we need to be aware of the goings on in the media, and the way media people are functioning, the way our media people exercise their rights, their duties, and their responsibilities. And it's very important for us to monitor and possible to point out where they have gone wrong, and why are things so. And we should have, I think the students need to be taught, to monitor the media with regard to the functioning of the media, and particularly with regard to the responsibility, how responsible the media are, which is very, very important. And unfortunately, what I see is most of the time, particularly during my experience as a teacher, my experience in the earlier years, at Madras University, were very, very different, in the sense we used to get very committed students, and students with interest, students who had an aptitude for media, and students who are involved in the media. They used to read up newspapers. They used to keep themselves abreast of the developments. And they were regular readers of newspapers. And maybe subsequently, when television came up in a big way, and many of them used to also follow the television channels. But subsequently, what I see, and particularly after that in the 21st century, the things have changed a great deal. The students come into the media education sometimes without a proper understanding of the field that they are entering. Maybe because they have nothing else, they could not get into anything else, they get into the media courses. And maybe because it is something new, So let me go there and find out and see, experience what is new about this, with that kind of an understanding. And sometimes the students come here because the glamour of media. They think that they get into media, they become, they can become very glamorous people. The glamour of the media that attracts them. And as I said, sometimes they come in because they think media can get them a big salary. That expectation is also there in the students. But when they get into the course and you expect them, you know, what they expect, what they want, they are more interested in the skills. They're more interested in their skills. They're more interested in the use of the the camera. They're more interested in the use of their what you call as the computer, their laptops and whatnot. You know, and they do not want any theoretical input. They are not interested in any theoretical input. No, it is not right. People who come with that kind of an expectation, you know, it is not right. The skills alone will not get you anywhere. You need to have a theoretical background. You have to build yourself. The theory is as important as the skills are, or the practical aspects are. That is also very, very important. And what I see is that they don't read newspapers. They don't read newspapers at all. They don't watch television channels, particularly news channels. Maybe they watch what you call as the entertainment channels. Maybe they watch, you know, the with regard to the other expectations that they have, but they do not watch the news channels. They do not read the newspapers, which is a very, very unfortunate thing. I mean, what can you expect from such students when they enter a media field, or when they want to go into the journalism field? It's not by accident that you enter a journalism field or a media field. You prepare yourself, you train yourself, you equip yourself, not only with regard to the physical skills that you develop, but also your mental skills that you have, the mental strength that you develop, you know. And this is where the what you call as there is an obligation on the part of the students. And I mean, they don't even they don't read books at all. Reading is out of question. They don't read books, they don't read newspapers, they don't watch television news channels, which is unfortunate. And I find this in more than 50 to 60% of the students. I think, and most of another unfortunate thing that has happened is most of the courses which are being offered in the universities, in the colleges, are self-financing courses. Here again, what matters is the money. What matters is how many students you are able to get, how many students you are able to admit, and how much money can you get, because you need to pay particularly those of the colleges which are fully self-financed. Money matters a lot. The teachers are paid out of the fees that is collected. you know. And so when it comes to the question of media education also, there are many aspects that one has to look into. Situation is going from bad to worse. It's very unfortunate. At the same time, one is not able to avoid it. Since the students, they are able to get the students, and I've seen in many colleges, when they come asking for a certain course, they push the students to the media course because the number is less. They expect a big number because only big numbers can get the big money, which means to. And naturally today, media education departments are not like it was when we were students. What it needed was a library, a good library. What it needed was good lecturers. What it needed was good newspapers, magazines, you know. So we were satisfied with that. But today that's not the case. Technically a department has to be established with all the equipment that is needed, and as a result, what has happened is the library is not given much importance, and the newspapers and magazines are not given much importance. The journals are not given much importance, and there are colleges which don't have any journals at all, don't get any journals at all. Journals, I mean professional journals. And so when we insist, to get the recognition, they show the basic minimum in terms of the equipment, in terms of teachers, in terms of the books, minimum number of books. And it so happens, and most of the time, the teachers are also not fully equipped because it depends on the kind of remuneration that the teachers are going to get from these institutions. And so there is what you call as a slide down on the quality of teachers also. And so everything is sacrificed. But what they want is they want to start a media education course. They want to start as many courses as possible. And so the teachers also keep shifting from one institution. Today you find them in one institution, and maybe after 6 months or after 1 year, they shift to another institution. The permanency is not there. If the permanency is not there, how can the department be developed? It is the teachers who need to develop the department. It is the teachers who have to keep up the continuity in the department. So there are many public problems which are faced because of this proliferation of courses. I mean, we are at an advantageous position, but at the same time, I feel that the disadvantages are much more than the advantages. So all this has to be taken into consideration and not dilute not allow media education to be diluted. And I think my colleagues who are present here will also agree with me that we have a great responsibility. We have a great, accountability towards building up media education and developing media education and developing the standards of media education in the country, and not allow it to be diluted, which is very, very important. And so because the media people also feel when they want to recruit the people are students, are graduates, they feel that they are not properly equipped. They are not fully equipped. And they feel that our courses are very diluted courses. So there is no point in producing hundreds and thousands of students. But there is what is important is to produce quality students, students who are committed, students who have the aptitude, for the media education, students who have the aptitude for the media to function, to work for the media. This is something which is very, very important. And uh, and this is where, when such students without any kind of what you call as a principles or a proper foundation go into the media, and what can you expect from them in terms of ethics, in terms of their duties and responsibilities towards the media and their obligation to the society. you know so it's very, very important that we uh, emphasize once again on media education and media ethics, and instill the principles of ethics, proper journalistic ethics, or ethics as communicators, you know, to follow a profession, to make journalism not only a profession, but also not only a livelihood, but also a kind of make it a way of life. Make it a way of life. It should be the path of that needs to be followed in one's life. I think with these, I stop and expect your response and interaction.
Thank you, ma'am, for an elaborative session on media law and ethics, where you spoke even in spite of, along with your experience and how a media education needs to impart, and also what kind of content and what kind of the syllabi needs to be included in the media education, which is the need of the hour. Yes, we do have a lot of questions in the chat box, which I'll be taking up one by one. Before I take up the questions, I'm happy to inform you that I think majority of them are your past students. As you told, we have Thomas Jaiprakash is there in the team, and you also mentioned about one of your students from Australia who has also joined, and we have some research scholars also. So let me take up the question, and we also have Professor BP Sanjay sir, who happens to be a very good friend of yours and also your classmate. I could see Sanjay
No,
sir.
not my classmate. He was my colleague.
Colleague. Okay, sorry, sir. Sorry. Okay, the very first question is from Thomas Jaiprakash, who wants to know that how do we teach media law and ethics to students in the classroom when we think it is impossible to practice ethics? Again, the challenges of teaching ethics and law together. What kind of pedagogy media teacher should employ for teaching media law in the classrooms? That's the first question, ma'am.
Yeah, it's a very challenging one. It's a very challenging one, and students need to don't like to be what you call as the lectured, on ethics. They don't like it, and that is from my experience. I have seen from my experience, and day by day, their patience, to listen to someone is becoming less and less, and particularly when one lectures. So it's very challenging. One needs to take up challenges. And I think one of the ways is to take up case studies.
Yeah.
And have discussions and involve the students, and see what is ethical and what is not ethical. And we can take up, day-to-day problems, day-to-day issues in the society, in the media, in any field. I think every profession has its own ethics, whether it is the medical field or it is the legal field, any field, there has to be ethics. Some ethics are there, and ethics should be there, and ethics to be followed. I think one of the best ways is to not to lecture down to them. Maybe you can give them the basic principles and involve them in the form of discussions and take up case studies and give them, let them prepare and come for a discussion. And you can have a debate in the classroom. You can discuss it in the classrooms. I think that's the best way of doing it. Wherein
that's what even
you involve
that's what even
them.
Sanjay sir has also mentioned about it. Yeah.
You involve them, So because, and particularly at the master's level, they know they don't like to be, told in terms of do's and don'ts and all that. On the other hand, they may be made to think for themselves, come up, with practical examples, with practical issues, and debate it out and discuss it out. I think that's the best way of doing it. It doesn't mean that we have to undermine teaching the constitution, media laws, and ethics. And it is and without a knowledge of that, how are you going to function? How are you going to exercise your responsibilities, your duties? When you are faced with a challenge, how are you going to deal with yourself, deal with the issues?
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. We have the second question from one of the researcher by name Swally. He wants to know what would be the research areas in media law and media ethics a scholar need to look into. And one more thing is, what specifically needs to be done or change in a media education for the betterment of ethical journalism?
I think this morning I was thinking, I don't think maybe I'm ignorant. Anyone has tried to venture into this field of, doing research in the field of media ethics and laws, directly, maybe indirectly, touching on laws and ethics. But I think the way media is functioning, I gave you the example of this ratings, manipulation of ratings, and how media manipulates the audience. Media is doing nothing but trying to manipulate the audience. Whether it is through this Sushant Singh case, the Republic TV, or, for example, one can take up the effectiveness of the so-called television discussions. What purpose do they serve? How effective are they? Do they really go into the issues? As I said, they shout down each other and they shout down the audience. Ultimately, the audience don't hear anything. It is just nothing but the use of the voice. Or I think one of the areas that one can take up is the use of the news presentation in our many of our channels. The news, how it is presented. As I said, how they try to sensationalize. It's nothing but sensationalism. The way the voice is used, to exaggerate something. And it seems that everything is exaggerated. There doesn't seem to be anything normal. I think there is enough and more scope for taking up, as I said, I gave you one or two these examples. If they seriously look into, they can come up with any number of issues or any number of topics that can be taken up for research.
Thank you, ma'am. We have the third question from Manjunath, who is a research scholar in the department. He wants to know, post 2015 or 2017, India and South Asian countries are facing a lot of challenges in the field of internet, the censorship, freedom of speech and expression. Do you think it is going to be a threat, and what kind of laws can be applied? Don't you think that the older laws are not having a kind of a strong hold on the present thing? So don't you think that India also needs to change certain laws when it comes to media, ma'am?
Certain laws like what?
In the sense like freedom of speech and expression, people have taken it in a wronger sense, especially when it comes to uses of social media, what we have seen in the form of anti-national speeches, hate speeches, trolling. So don't you think the kind of law needs to be executed?
At the same time, you can't help it. It's a forum.
Yeah.
The internet is an open forum. It's a highway. And highway, all kinds of vehicles pass through. Similarly, in this highway of internet, all kinds of thoughts, ideas, views, opinions are allowed to pass through. And we should have the, what you call as, we should pick up we should have the judgment, we should be able to judge what is right and what is wrong and not get carried away by it. And I don't think it is right to, make laws or expect the government to make laws or want the government to make laws and regulations to control. How long? Okay, if they are, I don't like to call it as abuse, if the internet is being abused or people are abusing with their views and opinions and things like that. I mean, let them, and people also have the judgment. People are able to judge. People are able to distinguish between what is right and what is wrong. People are able to distinguish between what is ethical and what is unethical. And so we should not make the government a big brother. We should not. We know we don't need a big brother. And let them do it. They'll do it for some time. And ultimately, they will experience or they will realize that all their efforts, all that they did, was in vain, and it did not serve any purpose. And I don't think that regulation should be there, and control should be there, and government should take over or control. It's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate.
Okay. Ma'am, I have a question. You are speaking a lot about the kind of content which comes on television, especially when it comes to their entertainment channel as well as in the news channel. So we do have an organization such as BCC that we speaks about the Broadcasting Content Complaints Council, so which
Yeah.
has been there since existence.
Yes.
But don't you think that even in spite of having such a very big organization, a controlling agency or a monitoring agency, nothing has been done much. It is only there for the namesake. So what kind of new things or what kind of regulation these BCC councils, because when we speak about media laws, as we know that many of the things in India is haywire, nothing is controlled. Every organization are there for the namesake, but something has to be mandated, something has to be controlled to put them all into action. What could be done from the public, or what an academy of like teachers like us or the media institutions can do to make them work strongly so that changes can be brought into society?
Uh, See, I think, especially when it comes to the question of television, we should have something like the Press Council of India.
Mm-hmm.
The Press Council. I mean, uh, it should be which can, make it what you call as, and make every media channel,
Mm-hmm.
you know, be able to be obliged. And much more than that, what is important is to see that the people are able to monitor the media. The audience need to be educated.
Yes.
The audience need to be educated. The
Mhm.
audience need to take down such issues. If they think that what the media is doing is not right, it's not giving the right content,
Mhm.
it is shirking its responsibility. It's only trying to boost up its revenue. I think we should not keep quiet. And I think the media, uh, the what you call as the departments together media education departments together uh, can form some kind of a body,
Mhm.
monitoring body, you know, and then take up such issues, you know, and then point it out to the so-called the councils, the broadcasting council, or whatever it is, which needs to monitor. If they fail in their duty, they need also. Why should they be there? If they are not delivering, what is the use of having such? I mean, just for the namesake,
Mhm.
we don't have to have such organizations.
Mhm.
I think the media uh, departments in various universities, and particularly the universities and well-established colleges, to come together and form some kind of a media monitoring units, and then monitor the media.
Okay. We have a
And then
question.
give a feedback, constantly keep giving feedback.
Mhm.
How many of us do that? Do we give a feedback?
Mhm.
Do we react to the such content? We don't. It's possible for us.
Mhm.
We know we have a telephone number.
Mhm.
We are able to interact with them, but we don't do it. We don't take the trouble. And I think it is the obligation, it's an obligation on the part of the media education departments, you know, to come forward and do this,
Mhm.
and then pass it on to, I mean, many of our what you call as a very committed citizens do that. Committed citizens do that. You know, citizens who are interested in developing what you call as a civil society.
Mhm.
You know, making the civil society really active and functional. you know.
Mhm.
So we have a duty towards that. When they do it, but their number is very small.
Mhm.
And we as what you call as a people involved in the education of the media, in the study of the media, instead of, just as we study, as I said, most of them don't watch the television channels at all, particularly the news channels. Most of our students don't watch
Don't
the
worry.
television channels. Make it an obligation to them, obligatory to them, you know.
Okay. Ma'am, I have a question from Nitya from Christ, and she wants to know, even media has been breaching a lot of law when it comes to reporting on gender, or it can be women or communal things. Especially, there are a lot of media and their reports try to breach the law. So, what is your take on that? How can we educate those journalists in spite of knowing the things go wrong in the media? So, what could be done?
Just as I said, it's nothing but bias. Ethics is that you should not be biased. As a journalist, you're expected to be above a bias. You're expected to be objective. You're expected to be impartial. Expected to be impartial. And today what has happened, not only that, media is becoming judgmental also. Media is becoming judgmental also. To an extent that we don't seem to need, there is a need to be, what you call as, have courts and things like that. Media itself can pass the judgment. That's how it has been functioning,
Media
which is
trial.
actually very unfortunate.
Mhm.
Like, for example, as I gave you the example of this Sushant Singh case, it's the media which passed the judgment.
Mhm.
One channel did it, and others followed it. Everybody followed the bandwagon. It was the same voice, the same tone, which they shouted, and which is very unfortunate. They need to be told, they should be told, they are expected to be impartial. They expected to rise above bias. They are expected to be objective. I mean, if they are doing it knowing fully well. They're doing it knowing fully well. They are not. See, there was a time when we used to say, you should be above politics. You should not become, maybe you have an ideology, you subscribe to a particular political ideology, but that should not be reflected, or that should not come in the way of your duties and responsibilities as a journalist, as a media person. I mean, it's very unfortunate. A lot is expected from media people. A lot is expected from media people, from journalists. But actually, when it comes to the question of their, when we try to examine, very little is there. So they need to equip themselves. They need to equip themselves,
Yeah.
and if they are not able to, I mean, it's becoming, everybody is like that. What can I do? If you have to survive, no, you are not there for survival. If you think that it is a question of your survival, journalism and media is not the field. You get out, go elsewhere, and make your living and make your money, but don't pollute the field of media, don't pollute the journalism.
Thank you, ma'am. I have a question from Nishita, one of the research scholars from the department. She wants to know, is it the right time to get away with Official Secret Act?
Yes,
Hmm.
yes,
We need to have newer laws.
yeah. Ours is a democracy, and ours we are in we are a republic. We need to know everything. Maybe we have problem of terrorism,
Mhm.
the fear of external aggression, you know, and those issues are there, those problems are there. But I think the much more than using it to as a protection to safeguard in the event of terrorism and various external aggression and things like that. It's basically used to curb the freedom of expression, to prevent imparting information to the public, to the people. I don't think it was passed in 1923. And for them, everything was official secrets for the British. And we seem to be, reverting back to that system. Everything is official secrets. It can't be.
Yes, Thakwar.
The ordinary citizens cannot be penalized. We have experienced it. Students can.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. That was the last question we had in the chat box. If any of the participants who are there in the program today wants to raise a question, we'll be taking any one or two questions. If you have any questions, you can pose it directly by unmuting yourself and let the question be very brief and direct so that ma'am can take it. Yeah.
Padmanabh
Hello.
wants to say.
Hello.
Yeah. Yes, Padmanabh.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Glad to see you.
Nice to see you also.
Yeah. Social responsibility
Yeah.
and civil society
Yes.
is worst in India.
Is?
Worst in India.
Yes. Is it a question?
Hence, press is also part of society.
Yeah.
Press is also irresponsible. That is what I feel.
Mm.
Another
Since the society, you mean to say that since a society is
society
responsible?
deserves the media they have. That is my observation. Second, you said students do not read newspapers, do not see news channels, and that is the normal complaint we have been making.
Yeah.
Recently, I find a very big percentage of teachers also do not read newspapers, do not
Because
see.
it's the students who have become teachers.
I don't know. Even teachers don't read. And reading books, it is zero among teachers now. So, blaming students is not going to, solve this problem. We should be models for them. But I don't find that situation now.
Yeah. With regard to your first observation,
Yeah.
since society is responsible and media, which is part of the society, is also irresponsible.
Yes.
But that's not right. That's not right. You can't generalize. Maybe generally we feel that people are irresponsible, and maybe we generally feel that media people are irresponsible. But I think at least there are what you call as a 5% or 10% of the people, responsible people we have in our society.
Yeah, I agree. But they do not matter.
Yeah, if there are, it matters a lot. If there are 5% or 10%, that makes a lot. That means a lot. it can make a lot of difference.
Wow.
Similarly, in the field of journalism also, in the field of media also, I don't generalize. There are very committed, very responsible journalists, very responsible media people, So that makes a lot of difference.
For example, our
And
social
coming to-
media.
Yeah, let me come to your second question.
Okay.
The observation.
Yes.
Teachers don't read newspapers and teachers don't watch television channels. It is the students who have come up, who have, graduated, and the students who have been there as not reading newspapers, not watching television channels, news channels. And when they graduate and they become teachers, what can you expect from them?
That's right.
The same habit continues.
Yes.
The same habit continues, but they can change. They have a duty and they have a responsibility as teachers, and they need to set an example to the students. And if such teachers who don't read newspapers, who don't watch television channels, who don't read books, have a lot to lose.
Okay, thank you.
Josephine,
Social media, for example, is the most misused media today.
Yeah.
It is because of our irresponsibility only.
But
So,
there are the same thing applies to.
Very few are there.
The same thing applies to the social media also. There are very responsible people in the social media.
You earlier said those who are ethically strong and all that, they are not considered. They are not. There is nobody matters.
They do matter.
Okay.
They
fine.
do matter.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Don't you matter? Don't I matter?
Hello, Josephine.
Yes.
It was a pleasure.
Say hello to you.
Hello, Josephine. Usha here. And it was a great pleasure listening to you after so many years. And you have given us a wonderful insight into the media ethics, the problems, and the trends, and the Herculean task the media teachers have to instill this kind of values. And I fully agree with you. I endorse your views. And I, as a media teacher, I feel that we lack a strong grievance mechanism for the public. Public have so many grievances against the media, but there is there is no mechanism for the public to protect their interests. The government, instead of controlling the media, they should give the surveillance to the public. We have a lot of things to say. We have a lot of things to say, but we have no forum to say. And that is where we have to use social media. And we have studied many editorials, and the social media carries a lot of comments. It gives opportunity for the public to express. And they have, come down heavily on many editorials. And so there is an opportunity, but still that is not enough is what I feel. And I must thank Professor Nadi Krishnamurthy for letting us read so many newspapers in the department.
Yes.
And I'm happy that the younger lot in the department are carrying the tradition and have given the opportunity for students to read all kinds of newspapers, even to this day. I'm happy whether they read it or not. The papers are available, and I see at least 1 among 50, 2 among 50 are reading the newspapers. And that is why so Krishna Prasad, we used to say that everybody wants to become journalists, but very few become good journalists. So that 1 or 2 are the ray of hope. But
Yes.
thank you for the wonderful presentation. Thank you
Thanks.
for the
Thank
Thank you, Josephine. I just wanted to say hello to you.
Hi, Sanjay.
No questions.
Nice
from
to see you.
Very nice seeing you. And, congratulations. You are the first batch student of Professor Nadi
Oh,
Krishnamurthy.
that's great.
And
That's
it's
great. I'm
indeed
really
an honor that
privileged.
we have the opportunity to listen to you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay.
Thank you, ma'am. Thinking that there are no more questions from the people who have participated. And it was very nice, ma'am, as Usha ma'am told that you have given us a very good insight into how the media law and ethics has to be taken forward and what are our responsibilities which we shoulder right now, and how the syllabi or maybe even the press, the responsibilities of the people who are in the profession of journalism also need to be educated. At the same time, the organization or the controlling bodies which the governments have made has to be much more active. They need to be proactive, and the rules and regulations related to the media needs to change along with the time, because that is the necessary things which we need to observe. And as you told, the students are the hope for us, and as you told that they need to read a lot, they need to watch TV, they need to be more critical, and they need to get involved himself with the activities of the society so that they can also know what is the pulse of the people. It was nice listening to you, and I'm very thankful to you for being here along with us and sparing your time and your knowledge and expertise with the all the participants. And I'm very happy that all your other students also joined, even your Chennai students and your PhD students were also here. And on behalf of the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, University of Mysore, I wholeheartedly thank you for this precious as well as the insightful session. Thank you one and all for being a part. I also thank Professor Ishwar sir, Professor BP Sanjay sir, Professor Usha Rani ma'am, Professor Padmanabh sir, and I also have our colleagues from Shimoga University. I could see Dr. Satish was also there, our research scholars and students. Hopefully, this session has given them a very good insight, ma'am. Thank you one and all for being a part of the session. Thank you one and all. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sapna, and thank you, Mysore
you.
University, for this.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, ma'am. Bye.